ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله تعالى وخير الهدى هدى محمد صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. Before beginning, brothers and sisters, we would like to touch upon something just to share with you concerning the etiquette of these types of majalis or these places to be used today and after today in the future. I think that the people really need to be made aware about the etiquette of everything in Islam. There are adab or etiquette connected to every single action that the Muslim wants to do. Etiquette with his wife, etiquette with his mother, etiquette with the kuffar, etiquette as a student in the university, etiquette going to the masjid, coming from the masjid, and everything. So there's an etiquette that maybe we're not practicing it right now because we don't know. I want to take this time out to very briefly, inshallah, give this information to you. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam was traveling with his companions on an expedition, and they came to a point where they wanted to take some rest. When he stopped to take the rest, some of his companions, they went this way to rest, some of them went that way to rest, some of them proceeded to rest, some of them went that way. Since it wasn't permissible for the Messenger of Allah, as you're going to hear in this talk today, it wasn't permissible for anything to take place that was wrong in his presence. And he knew about it or knows about it. It's not permissible ever for him to witness something wrong except that he's going to say, hey, don't do that. If something was wrong, something said that was wrong, something was done and it was wrong, haram, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam will put the best construction to it. So when he noticed that his companions were all over the place like that, he said to them something that you have to pay attention to. He said, مَا لِي أَرَاكُمْ عِيذِينَ إِنَّ تَفَرُّقُكُمْ هَذَا لَمِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ. He said, what is this that I see you companions, my companions, divided and all over the place? Some people are here, some people are there, some people are there. What is this that I see? He says, verily this division of yours is from the shaitan. How is it from the shaitan? It's one of the ways that shaitan makes the people practice to keep the Muslims divided. The narrator of the hadith said, after we heard that statement of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we never came together in any majlis except that everybody came together. So we don't have in Islam the Muslim being far, far away from his brother. Never will we have that. Not in the majlis of knowledge and not in his life. The sister, she can't be way on the outskirts of Ottawa trying to practice Islam by herself. Why? Because all the time the lone sheep is going to get devoured by the wolf. All the time. So those brothers, anytime you come into the masjid, anytime you come into the masjid, the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is that people should fill up the rows as you go and not start from the back. That's what it would have been more appropriate if our sisters, the Jama'ah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the handmaidens of Allah, they would have been in the back on both sides as opposed to being equal with the brothers. But I think it's a bigger evil now to start playing musical chairs and changing it around. But in the future, let that be our minhaj. We want the women to always be behind us, and then we can fill up these two rows like these two sides and let them stay behind us. And honor and then and up. After that, the issue that we've been asked to talk about is a very important issue. The brother gave me an idea, my uncle, my respected uncle, when I summarized to him on a piece of paper what we're going to talk about, why don't you put it up on the board? since we have some serious students of knowledge, especially the brothers from Toronto, that came all the way from Toronto with their notebooks and their pens and they was ready. So I said, let me put it on the board for the other sisters as well, so you brothers and sisters can have this information easily and readily accessible to you. And that is, what is the Sunnah in Islam, and on top of that, who is the Jama'ah? And what is the Jama'ah in Islam? That question is very important, and the knowledge of it by the Lord of the Kaaba, by He whose hands my soul is in. When we came in and we started to read that, Craig Wednesday topic, and he started to write about the indefinite and the integrals, including finding the constant, whatever that word is. Wallahi, what we're about to study is more important than that junk. It's more important than that. If a person is a master at that right there, and he's making $60,000 a year, but he doesn't know about this, wallahi, al-khasara. He's lost, destroyed. There's not a science from the secular sciences that can compare to the Islamic sciences. But are we those ignorant people who have a problem with science? No. Science and Islam, they go hand in hand. Science is Islam, and Islam is science. They go hand in hand. Islam supports that. But the problem is when a person gives his time, his effort, and his money to trying to figure these equations out, what is that? PS equals, I don't even know what that stuff is. Well, what is it? People give themselves to this kind of information. It's important. And then when it comes to religion, you ask him, Ya Abdullah, the arkan of al-Islam. He says, al-jihad, al-amr bil-ma'ruf, he doesn't know. Al-arkan, the arkan of al-iman. He doesn't know what the arkan of al-iman. So this is more important. What is the sunnah? Concerning the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, there are multiple meanings. Whenever we hear the sunnah, it can mean different things. Interchangeable. Now you as the student, you as the Muslim, when you hear it in the context that is coming, it's going to determine for you what's being talked about. So one of the meanings of the sunnah is that which is opposite of al-bid'ah or innovation. You say, after the man prays his prayer, the sunnah is to say, astaghfirullah, 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 Allahumma anta as-salamu wa minka as-salamu, tabarakta ya dal jalali wal ikram. And he starts making the zikr on his fingers. That's the sunnah. And then the other man, after he prays, he raises his hands up with the imam, and everybody raises his hand up, and the imam starts making dua. We don't know what the imam is saying, but everybody in the row is doing like this. What he's saying, we don't know, and why we doing this, we don't know. We say that's a bid'ah. What, raising your hands for dua is a bid'ah? No. At this time, under these circumstances, this way, it's not from the sunnah, it's a bid'ah. So that's the first meaning of the sunnah. That's not what we came to talk about today. The second meaning of the sunnah is that which is opposite of the fard, or the wajib. That which is an obligation. You say, Salatul Fajr, الظهر العصر صلاة المغرب العشاء صلاة الجمعة صلاة العيدين, the two salats of the Eid, salat over the janazah or the dead person. All of those are obligatory. All of those are obligatory. As for the salat of the janazah, it's fardu ayn. Some people have to do it. If they do it, the responsibility is off of all of us. If no one does it, all of us are sinners. So that's fardu. The opposite of that is the sunnah. The two rakats before or after fajr. What's before and after dhuhr. What's before salat al-asr. What's after salat al-maghrib. What's after salat al-isha. At-tahajjud. Salat al-witr. That's the sunnah. It's not an obligation. And then we come to the third way, and this is extremely important. The sunnah is the minhaj and the aqidah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The way that he went about trying to establish Islam, and his belief that he established. Him and his companions, alayhi salatu wasalam, wa radiyallahu anhu. when the Prophet ﷺ started calling the people to al-Islam, he was being faced with a lot of what we're having to deal with today. We're in a position of weakness. Other people that have power, they could come in right now and say to us, okay, we're going to stop this program, you have to get out. And we don't have any ability, any power to say anything. He started his Islam like that. So now the question is, what was his way? Did the Prophet ﷺ say, I'm going to establish Islam, my way is to join the political parties of Abu Jahl and Abu Lahab, I'm going to become a Republican, I'm going to become a Democrat? Was that his way? Did he say the way that I'm going to change the condition of the people is I'm going to catch innocent disbelievers, pounce on them and slaughter them and kill them and say this is jihad, this is jihad? Did he change the way like that? The ideology or the aqidah. The things that the Prophet ﷺ taught the people about believing in the divine decree, about the names and the characteristics of the Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the aqidah or the ideology. So this is what we want to deal with today. That aspect of the Sunnah. What is the Sunnah? This is why those of you who have been purchasing the book, no longer does the English person have an excuse, inshallah, as to why he's remaining of those people who don't know. When I became a Muslim 10, 11 years ago, I had an excuse to be ignorant because the books that were translated in English, they came out of India and Pakistan. The language wasn't the language that we speak, the English that we speak, and you couldn't rest assured that the translator had a proper understanding of Islam. Some of those things, those materials that we used to read, they need to be checked. Now Allah brought about the circumstances and the conditions where people can read that which is authentic in the religion. From A to Z. You're not going to become a scholar reading in English. You're not going to become a scholar reading in English, but you can become well-versed and well-grounded in knowledge of al-Islam. So now we have those books called Sharh al-Sunnah, the explanation of the Sunnah by Imam al-Barbahari. A book that should be in all of our homes, and we should read it again and again and again, just like we read the Qur'an. The explanation of the Sunnah. The Sunnah means here the Aqidah and the Minhaj of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The book Usul Sunnah that was written by Imam Ahmed is also translated. Usul Sunnah, the fundamentals of the Sunnah, the Aqidah and the Minhaj of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And there are so many other books that are similar to that have not been translated, like Kitab al-Sunnah to Al-Imam Ibn Abi Asim, Kitab al-Sunnah to Abdullah ibn Ahmed ibn Hanbal, and so many other books. The point is that it's talking about what? The explanation of the Sunnah is talking about the Aqidah and the Minhaj of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now I want to take you brothers and you sisters to Surah Ali Imran. But prior to that, for those of you who are writing, the technical meaning of the Sunnah is what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said and what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did and what was done in his presence, and he allowed it to be done. For an example, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, رَكَةَ الْفَجْرِ خَيْرٌ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا وَمَا فِيهَا. The two rakat that you make before the Fajr prayer, they are better than the dunya and everything that's in it. Which gives you an indication of how deficient the dunya is. That a man can wake up in the morning, pray two rakats before the fard of al-Fajr, and those two rakats that he prays are better than the dunya and everything that's in it. So that's a statement of the Messenger of Allah. We call that the Sunnah. Those two rakat are from the Sunnah based upon his statement. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as Anas ibn Malik said, and Aisha and other companions radiallahu anhum, they said the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to pray two rakat before the two rakat of al-Fajr. That's his action. The third one is given his consent. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam prayed with the companions, Salatul Fajr. And then after the Fajr was over, he proceeded to leave the masjid after making the zikr. When he started to leave the masjid, he saw a man praying by himself. The Prophet waited for him. After the man finished, the Prophet said to him, أَجُعِلَتِ الْفَجْرِ أَرْبَعًا? Has Fajr Salat been made 4 rak'at? Why are you still praying? The man said, Ya Rasulullah, I came late, so I missed the 2 rak'at that you prayed before Fajr, so I wanted to make them up after I prayed Fajr. The Prophet ﷺ turned and he went without saying anything. So he gave his consent. So this is the technical meaning of as-sunnah. What he said, what he did, and what was done in his presence. There was nothing that can be done in the presence of the Messenger of Allah ﷺ that was wrong, except he either had to let it happen. If he let it happen, it's from the religion. It's permissible. And if he said that it's haram, obviously it's not from the religion. Now we go to Ali Imran. I said to my little companion, Ameen, Ya Ameen, find for me in the Qur'an, in Surah Ali Imran, ayat number 67. He said, that's the only ayat you want? I said, yes. He took the Arabic Qur'an, mashallah, and he started flipping through the pages as I wrote, and he found it for me. He said, here it is. Asked him about 4 other ayats in different surahs, and he found all of them. I was impressed with that because it goes to show that somebody is taking some time out with this boy. So my little companion, Sheikh Amin, he said, we found in this ayat in Ali Imran, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us a very important point here concerning Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam and the da'wah and the sunnah of Ibrahim and how it relates to the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam when he said, ما كان إبراهيم يهوديا ولا نصرانيا ولكن كان حنيفا مسلما وما كان من المشركين إن أولى الناس بإبراهيم للذين اتبعوه وهذا النبي والذين آمنوا والله ولي المؤمنين. Listen to this ayah, brothers and sisters. Allah said that Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, he wasn't a Jew, nor was he a Christian. But he was Hanif and he was a Muslim. He established the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He didn't do the crime of attributing with Allah ta'ala after the knowledge came to him any partner. He wasn't a Yahudi, nor was he a Nasrani. But he was Hanif and the natural disposition and the natural inclination to establish the worship and the tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he was a Muslim, one who submitted his will to Allah, and he wasn't from the mushrikeen. Only those people who have more right to follow Ibrahim are those people who followed him during his time, and this Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and those people who believe with him from the Muslims sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. In this ayah, it brings us to this issue, and that is, the Yahudi or the Nasrani, he can talk until he's blue in the face, stating and trying to prove that he should be connected to Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. My mother, she can stand on the top of her head in the middle of the street and scream at the highest level, the highest octane that her voice can muster, saying, I'm connected to Ibrahim, I believe in Ibrahim, I like Ibrahim. But as long as she says that Isa ibn Maryam is the son of Allah, he's Allah sometimes, and then he's interchangeable, he can become something else, it's the Father, it's the Son, it's the Holy Ghost. As long as she believes that, she's from the furthest people from Ibrahim. Those people who can connect themselves to Ibrahim were the people who followed his sunnah when he was on the scene, and our Prophet and Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and the people who followed him. Which brings us to this issue, and that is, if that's the case with Ibrahim, brothers and sisters, that he wasn't a Yahudi, nor was he a Nasrani, we have to ask ourselves the natural question. What about those people from this ummah who attach to themselves names that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't send any authority for? For an example, I want to connect myself to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and I belong to some group that he didn't sanction, or some group that believed in what he didn't believe in. Their beliefs contrary to what he brought and what he believed. Similar to my mother, those people can stand up and scream with the loudest voices that they can muster. They can't be connected to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, nor to his Sunnah. So who are some of those people? Now we have to see if we fall in these categories. The first person or group of people are the people who we wrote up there on the board. These are some people who can't connect themselves to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And they are those people who forsake his way, his Sunnah. You all know of the authentic hadith when those three companions came to his wives, and they were righteous men and they wanted to do the right thing, and they said to the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how was the Messenger of Allah when he was home? What did he do? We love him so much, we want to be like him, we want to practice and do the things that he did, so that Allah can make us of the people of paradise. So they told us, the wives told those three men about his behavior. So one of the men said, well, as for me, I'm going to fast all the time and I'm never going to break my fast. The other one said, I'm going to pray the tahajjud salah all the time and I'm never going to sleep. The third one said, as for me, I'm never going to get married to women. Because women, they are fitna. When you get married to them, as the Prophet said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, ma taraktu fitnatin hiya adar ala ummati min al-nisa. I've not left a bigger, more difficult fitna, more harmful on my ummah than the fitna of the women. The fitna of the woman includes, you have to be responsible for educating her. That's a fitna, because if you don't educate her, you're going to be responsible for it. The fitna of choosing a wife who is compatible and she's a good woman. The fitna of the nisa is having a daughter to raise her up, to marry her off. It's our responsibility. The woman, she gets married, she gets divorced, she's the responsibility of her father, her brother. He shouldn't leave his sister out there like that, divorced. No, he has to bring his sister back inside of the circle of the family. I'm responsible for you, Sharifa, just like I'm responsible for my baby. The fitna. So that man said, oh, those women are fitna, I'm never going to get married. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this is the point, when he heard about those positions that they took, he made that statement that clearly shows us that people who forsake his Sunnah, they're not from us. He said, I do this and I do that, I do this. Man raghiba an sunnati falaysa minni. Those people who forsake my Sunnah, they are not from me. I'm freeing and clearing myself from those people. So how is that manifested today? No one here, look at those sisters the way, don't look at them. The way the women are dressed, it's clear that those sisters are Muslims. But there are sisters who are sitting here who forsake the Sunnah. And she may be the best dressed woman in here. How does she forsake the Sunnah? She forsakes the Sunnah by hating the fact that a man is allowed more than one wife. She hates it. She hates the Sunnah in that she has a 16-year-old daughter, 17-year-old daughter. And then there's a brother who's a good candidate to marry that girl. The mother says, no, I don't want my daughter to get married until she gets a college degree so that she doesn't have to depend on a man. And then when she becomes self-sufficient, I let her marry this way anytime she can say, I divorce you. She forsakes the Sunnah. The brother forsakes the Sunnah because what happens is he's an intellectual. He graduated from Cambridge, from Harvard, from one of these prestigious universities, or he has any kind of degree. He has a PhD, he has a master's. He says, well, slavery is not permissible. This is for the old days. The United Nations abolished slavery in 1963. But when you read the Qur'an, Allah Ta'ala established slavery in the Qur'an, slavery in the Sunnah, but the slavery of the Qur'an of Islam is not tantamount to the slavery that comes to our minds when we see a picture like Ruth. A certain people, a certain color, they're the slaves. No, that's not the case. So whoever has a problem with these issues, whatever the issue is, the man has to do certain things as a Muslim man. If he doesn't do it, he has forsaken the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The next thing, as we wrote up there, those people who can't claim or who have been put out of the circle of being from the people of the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam are those people who fall into certain kind of sins or mistakes. And they're not always major sins and major mistakes. For an example, the companion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whose name was Ruwayfi' ibn Thabit. He's not a well-known companion. Ruwayfi is the ism tasghir to the name Rafi. Ruwayfi ibn Thabit. The Prophet said to him sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Ya Ruwayfi, لعل الحياة ستطول بك بعدي فاخبر الناس أن من قلد وصفا أو قعد لحيته أو استنجى برجيع جابة فإن محمد بريء منه. Hey Ruwayfi, it may be that after I die, you're going to live for a long time. I'll die as the Prophet and the Messenger, and you'll still go on the scene with the rest of the companions. If that happens, I want you to tell the people something. Tell the people that whoever ties up a tamima, he puts something around his arm and his neck, thinking it's going to protect him. He puts a horseshoe over the door in his house, a mistletoe, a rabbit's foot. He may even have one of those pieces of paper with some of the Qur'an. He puts it in his mirror in the car. When he gets in the car, he kisses it, he touches it, thinking that this is going to save him from an accident. Whoever does that, and whoever braids his beard, he twists it up and he braids it. And whoever makes his sinja using the dung, the dry dung of animals, tell him that Muhammad is free of him and he's free of me. So the person who's open to those three things, the Prophet ﷺ has cleared himself. There are 2 points that I need you brothers and sisters to pay attention to. The first one is, those three companions who came to the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, as you can see, none of them wanted evil. They wanted to get close to Allah Ta'ala by leaving alone that which was mubah. They wanted to get close to Allah, and their niyyah was good. In spite of their good niyyah, the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whoever forsakes my sunnah, he's not from me. He said that to his companions. What about the people who want to worship Allah with that which He has not legislated? They have good intentions. I want to do this, I want to do that, but there's no proof for it. You say, but I got a good intention. If you said that to his companions and their niyyah didn't enter into the equation, what are you going to say to people who come after his companions? That's number one. Number two, this hadith of Ruwayfi. Is it a big thing taking your beard and tying it up? Well, if we looked at that issue, that's not a big thing. That's not a big crime like killing someone. What's the big deal? Letting my wife take my beard when I'm laying in. She put in my beard some henna. She puts in my beard some dihin or some duhin, some oil, some perfume. Then she prays it. I want it to grow. That's not a big thing. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever does that, I'm free of him. He sent out his companions on an expedition. The emir of the expedition in jihad was Khalid ibn Walid, radiyallahu anhu. Khalid was a serious man. He didn't have time to waste and time to pray. If you sat in Khalid ibn Walid's majlis, you listened to what he was saying and how he was acting, wallahi, you say, hada rajul. That's a man right there. Khalid, when he came upon those people, the enemy, he went into them and he killed everybody in the way. Women, men, children, old, young, who was fighting against them, everyone. He just annihilated the people. And then the people who gave up, they surrendered, he tied them up real tight. And he was telling them this is the power of Islam. When the Prophet ﷺ caught up to the people, and he saw dead people all over the place, old women killed, old men killed, children were killed, lying all over the place with blood. He said, Allahumma inni bari'u mimma sana'a Khalid. Oh Allah, I'm free of what Khalid did here today. I don't have anything to do with this. I didn't send him to tell him to do something like that. So people who fall into the crime of murdering kuffar unjustly, calling it al-jihad, calling it, we're going to change the tables. Wallahi, that's from the crimes and the sins that the Prophet ﷺ has freed himself from you. And you don't have anything to do with the sunnah. Now as for the mujahideen, who are fighting the kuffar, and they go to the kuffar at nighttime, and we can't distinguish between who's who, and you just wind up killing people in the nighttime like that, then inshallah there's nothing wrong with that, as the Sunnah has explained. But to go and to oppress people, as we hear our brothers saying this is all the time, what if the person who you did away with happened to be my mother, who I love tremendously? You do that? Now you put my mother, you made her one of the recipients of the hellfire. You didn't give her a chance. Innocent people. That's not jihad in the religion of Allah. The third people, or the third group of people, are those people, as you can see. Especially these people that cannot connect themselves to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his sunnah. Yawm al-Qiyamah, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he has been given the shafa'ah, the great major intercession. He has the ability given to him by Allah Ta'ala. No other prophet was given this particular shafa'ah, that when we are in need, Yawm al-Qiyamah, of one hasana to get over the hump, we're going to be in need, many of us, of some help to push us into the paradise. May Allah cause us all to die on al-ikhlas and the tawheed, and cause us all to go to the paradise. Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam is going to come forth and intercede for the people. That's why I think it's appropriate for our brothers and our sisters, when we have relatives and we see people who are not practicing al-Islam to the degree and the level that we wish they were, we should be a bit more lean, a bit more soft. We should have a bit more rahmah. We should have a bit more understanding and giving dawah and being patient with them. Why? Because as long as that individual is living and he's not thinking those thoughts of disbelief, he has a chance. Don't you be a reason why you push him out of Islam. Wallahi, when I'm traveling all over the world, I travel down the street like here in Ottawa. I want to go to that Middle Eastern restaurant to buy some shawarma that we can't stand in there because of what's going on, but still we're going to get the shawarma sandwich from them. While I'm driving down the street, I see the sister walking down the street with niqab on, with jilbab on. Wallahi, in my heart, there's a sakina, there's a coldness, a warmth that comes over, because you say, look at the dawah has reached everywhere. You go to any remote place in America, Minnesota, that's similar to it's very cold, anywhere, you're going to find people dressing like that. There was a time when I became a Muslim, the women, they used to wear turbans. They used to wear short dresses, and now they have evolved that this is the standard now. So it feels good to see women dressing like that, to see that the dawah is established like that. Now there's a type of sister who hasn't developed and she hasn't evolved to that stage yet. She's not at that level yet. I think that sister, she needs to understand, and that brother as well, one of the things that we cannot do is, we can't be the reason why we give people excuses to reject the truth. No one in his right mind who has his faculties is going to say, I want Islam other than the way of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. People who are practicing innovation, they practice it because they really don't know. If you were to sit the person down and say, come here, I respect your intelligence. Look, I want good for you. I think you're a nice person. Wallahi, I don't think that I'm better than you. Let me tell you, let us discuss this issue about what you're doing and what you're not doing, and let me present these evidences to you, and here's a book, and look, I want you to come over, have some dinner with me, and you treat people kindly. I tell you, after a while, you're going to break people down. When you make them feel like you respect them. But when you come to people, you take this water, and you just say, you stupid person. Who in his right mind going to take that and say, shukran, jazakallahu khairah? He's going to respond likewise. He's going to curse you, he's going to hit you. So we say we have to develop this ability to make the dawah appealing to people. So now, Yawm al-Qiyamah, the Muslims from this ummah, they're going to come to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa sallam, and they're going to say, or the Prophet is going to say, Ashabi, Ashabi. He's going to see that those Muslims are in trouble. They're getting ready to get thrown into the hellfire, to get punished, to have on them those chains, to get burnt, You know that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, if you were to take one man out of the hellfire, the people of the Jahannam, if you were to take one of them out of the hellfire, and you were to put it inside of my masjid, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said that the breathing that comes from that man will burn up 100,000 people in my masjid. So that's from his breathing, I can't imagine, from the fire and the liquid and the motion, I can't imagine, from the screaming and all the other problems that they're going to have. So now that's going to be the reward of some of the people from the Ummah. So the Messenger of Allah he wants to intercede. He steps forward and he says to the angels who are about to throw them people into the hellfire, he says, Ashabi, Ashabi, don't throw them in the hellfire. I want to make intercession. Those are my companions from my Ummah. The angel is going to respond and they're going to say to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, إِنَّكَ لَا تَعْلَمْ مَا أَحْدَثُوا مِنْ بَعْدِكَ. You don't know, Muhammad, what they invented in the religion after you. Look, a lot of benefits we get from this hadith. First of all, you don't know what they invented after you. If the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam knew everything, how can the angel say that to him? He doesn't know everything. The man tried to be sarcastic and he came to the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the Bedouin, and he said, Muhammad, he saw that the party untied his camel and his camel ran off. He said, Muhammad, where your camel at? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, he's outside. The man said, I'll never follow a man who doesn't know where your camel is. Try to be sarcastic, saying, if you were really a prophet, you know everything that's happening. Prophet Muhammad is only a man. He doesn't know what's going to happen unless Allah Ta'ala reveals to him. So those angels say, you don't know what those people created. After that, when the Prophet realizes and hears that those people innovated in his religion, and as a result of introducing innovation, how many people went astray? And this is one of the tricks of a shaitan. Shaitan is an expert. If he sees the son or the daughter of Adam, he is not inclined to Islam. He's a kafir. He's not interested in Islam. What Shaitan does is, he opens up on that person the door of a-shahwa. He makes that person a slave to his desires. Like my brother, who just died at the tender age of 32. He died from sickle cell anemia. I used to call my brother to Islam. Everything I used to do when I was young, my brother was a few years younger than me, he used to copy me in everything. When I accepted Islam, I thought it was only natural that he would accept Islam. My brother said, look, I can't become a Muslim because, look, I have to have my girlfriend, I have to be able to smoke weed, I have to be able to hang out in the party. I'm going to leave it, I'm going to leave all this. So he was a servant, a slave to his desires. Allah took him in that state, he's from the recipients of the hellfire. So when the person's not inclined to Islam, that's how Shaitan gets him. He opened the window of desire. Do as you like. But when he finds the Muslim, and the Muslim is inclined to do good, he fasts in the month of Ramadan, he prays, he tries to make haram, haram, halal, halal. What he does is, what Shaitan do? He comes to that person and he opens up to him the window of al-bid'ah, the window of al-shubahat, innovation and affairs that are not clear. So the person starts to worship Allah. And wallahi, Shaitan loves the person who's doing bid'ah more than he loves the one who's doing sin. The man is killing people. Shaitan, he loves that man. But he loves the man who's doing bid'ah more than anyone. Why? Because of the hadith of the Prophet when he says, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, إِنَّ اللَّهَ احْتَجَزَ التَّوْبَةَ عَنْ صَاحِبِ الْبِدْعَةِ. Allah has put a veil in front of the one who does bid'ah. What does that hadith mean? As long as he thinks he's getting close to Allah by doing the 27th of Ramadan, bringing his cookies, his candies, doing what they do, and Isra and Mi'raj, the mawlid of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, wiping the face, the dhikr beat, all of that stuff. As long as he thinks he's getting close to Allah Ta'ala, he's not going to stop what he's doing. He's never going to stop. Whereas the one who's sinning, if you come to him, you say, Aki, stop killing those people. So my lady is going to say, yeah, make dua for me, astaghfirullah. Hey, why are you not dressing? She say, make dua for me. I know. Why are you not praying? Well, I am weak. Make dua for me. And the propensity to make tawbah is within him. Whereas the muqtadi, Shaitan just keep pushing him further and further away. So when the Prophet hears that, he's going to say to those people who were from his community, su'han, meaning, get away from me. Get away from me. You didn't, this is not the hadith I'm saying to you, you, innovator, You didn't drink from the fountain of the Sunnah in this life. You didn't drink from it. You didn't educate yourself. What is the Sunnah? What is the Minhaj? What is the Aqidah? The person makes a mistake and he kills someone and he says, hey, everything is by divine decree. He goes into the department store and he comes out with a jacket that he didn't go in with. When they arrest him, he gets with his parents. He says to the mother and father, everything is by divine decree. Allah wrote it on me. Where do you get that understanding from? Because now the divine decree is also going to be inclusive of me going upside your head now. From the divine decree of Allah Ta'ala, that argument is a deviant argument. Allah Ta'ala establishes for himself certain characteristics. People, Muslims, they have problems with it. No, Allah can't do that. No, he can't do that. If he was doing that, he wouldn't tell this, he would tell that. Allah Ta'ala is shy. As the hadith of the Prophet said, Inna Allah hayyun kareem. يستحي أن يرفع عبده إليه يديه فيردهما صفرا. Allah is shy. Allah is generous and Allah is shy. Allah is living and Allah is generous. He is shy for a servant to raise his hands to him and make dua, and then Allah doesn't give to his servant. So the hadith tells us what? That you should make dua like that. Persons say, no, only women are shy. That's a human trait, a human quality. So all of those are innovations that when people partake in them and they create them and they are part of it, the Messenger of Allah will free himself. Now we only have a few minutes. The brother gave me, he said 5 minutes, 10 minutes ago. The Jama'ah. Ma hiya al-Jama'ah? What's the meaning of the Jama'ah in Islam? It's very simple. And this is something that we all should struggle and strive to be about. It's more important, brothers and sisters, than those equations. There's no one in this room who's doing anything more important than raising off of yourself ignorance about Islam. The Jama'ah, or the group. Is the Jama'ah this particular Islamic group or that group? Is it the Muslim student organization or association of this particular university? If you don't belong to this organization, you're not from the Jama'ah of the Muslims. One of the things that I found strange coming to Islam is what the Muslims created for themselves. How you find this Jama'ah, that Jama'ah, that Jama'ah, and each Jama'ah was against the other one. Everyone was saying, we're the truth, we're on the truth, we're on the truth. Then you get an opportunity to look at them and to dissect their situation. It's clear they're not on the truth. Then even stranger than that was how they were all unified with each other in spite of their diversity. They were all being in unification against the dawah of saying to the people, look, pure Islam, Qur'an and the Sunnah, and that's it. The way the companions understood. They come together, all of them together against that. That was strange. So the Jama'ah, we can understand it from the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that has been collected by Imam Abu Dawood and other than Abu Dawood, when the Prophet told us that the Jews broke off into 71 sects and the Christians broke off into 72 sects, and this ummah تفترق إلى 73 فرقة كلها في النار إلا واحدة. Our community is going to break off into 73 different names. All of them are in the hellfire except one. The companions didn't leave it like that. They want to know. They want to raise off of themselves jahil. Whenever you used to say things, if they didn't know, if it was ambiguous, it wasn't clear, then what's the next step? Ya Rasulullah, what's the meaning of it? So they asked him, alayhi salatu wasalam, which group is that? All of them are in the hellfire except which one? All of them are rejected except which one? All of them are not considered to be the Jama'ah except which one, Ya Rasulullah? He identified it for us, and he said, ما أنا عليه اليوم أصحابي. The group that's doing what I'm doing today and what my companions are doing today. So I have to ask every group of people when they come to introduce something to me, a new idea, a new group, I say, can you show and prove to me where the companions of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam practiced that and he did that? Don't you know that there are Muslims who are racist and they believe that because of certain ayats in the Qur'an, Allah has chosen their people over other people? They use the Qur'an to support that. People use the Qur'an to show that Allah Ta'ala ordered Aisha to be sacrificed and slaughtered. People use the Qur'an to show that Abu Bakr and Umar are disbelievers in Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Can you imagine that? Disbelievers in Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam. So we say, no, it's not enough. For the person to just say, well, the Qur'an. We have to say, the one who was doing what the Prophet was doing, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when he brought the Qur'an and he explained it with the Sunnah, and what he gave to the companions. Those people understood better than anyone else what was the implication and what was the meaning behind what the Prophet said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, radiyallahu anhu, when he was asked about the group, the Jama'ah, he said to the people, al-Jama'ah ma wafaq al-haq walau kunta wahdik. The Jama'ah is what is in accordance with the truth, even if you're by yourself. You're with a group of people, all of your family, all of your relatives, they believe in something that's not right, and you're telling them, no, the right thing is like that. Wallahi, as long as you're on the truth, even if you're by yourself, you're the Jama'ah. So when they asked Abdullah ibn Mubarak radiallahu anhu about the Jama'ah during his time, he said only one person, Abu Hamza al-Sukkari, who was Jama'ah. Only one person at that time he said was the Jama'ah, because he was holding on and he was fighting and he was calling to what the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam brought, and what the companions of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam brought. So this is what we wanted to present today, and the brother informed me that after this we're going to have the questions when we pray, or after we pray Salat al-Maghrib, inshaAllah. And he also informed me that we have to be careful of asking the sensitive questions, because we don't want to create problems here at the university with the future programs that we're going to be allowed to put on, inshaAllah. So now we'll Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa salawatullahi wa salamuhu ala nabiyyina al-ameen. Wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'een. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu ittaqullaha haqqa tuqatihi wa la tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد. Before beginning, inshallah, many times the majlis of questions and answers is just as beneficial or even more beneficial than sometimes when you give talks. An opportunity for people to have their questions entertained that maybe they've been dealing with, as if the question knows the answer, and it gives us an opportunity to clarify. Like what we have to clarify what happened at that other center that we just came from. And that was when we were reading the ayat from Surah An-Nisa about hitting the women. We had read the ayat, وَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ نَشُوزَهُنَّ. And just now we just prayed with the brother Ziyad, who came from Toronto, Jazahullah Khaira, Salat al-Isha. And after standing behind him in Salah, I can hear from his recitation what he was doing with the Qur'an, that he clearly knows what he's doing, clearly. Allah has honored him and blessed him, alhamdulillah, by making him one of the people who learned how to read the Qur'an properly. And I can't stress enough to you brothers and you sisters how important it is that if you are trying to memorize the Qur'an by yourself, and alhamdulillah, do the best that you can. But you have to remember that the Qur'an is memorized correctly when you go to someone who already knows it, and they even taught it correctly. And then they can teach you the ahkam of the tajweed of the Qur'an. It's important, trust me. So after standing behind that brother and listening to how he read, it was clear to me that he was mujawwid, alhamdulillah. So I asked him, Akhi Ziyad, there's something in my heart about that ayah. I don't think I said it right. Was it like that? He couldn't think of it right away. He started from the previous ayah, he started reading down from his mind, and then he came to the ayah, and the correct recitation on the correct statement is, وَاللَّاتِي تَخَافُونَ نَشُوزَهُنَّ فَعِذُهُنَّ وَهْجُرُهُنَّ وَضْرِبُوهُنَّ. So that's the correct ayah. فَجَزَاهُ اللَّهُ خَيْرًا. Here we have quite a few questions. The brother said if you brothers and sisters have any more questions, just to pass them down. Maybe we can put my main student and Amin over here, And the other main student, Ilyas, over here. When the sisters pass it down, they can bring it over here. As for the brothers, they can just pass their questions down, inshallah. The person said, can you explain the hadith about praising someone? What is the correct way to praise someone? That's an ayah from the Qur'an as well as a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, an injunction in which Allah Ta'ala prohibited us, as He said in the Qur'an, وَلَا تَزَكُّوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. Do not praise one another. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam also preventing us from breaking the neck or the back of our brother by praising him in his face. So we have to understand that that's one injunction. But then we have other examples of how Allah Ta'ala praised people and how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam praised people in their faces. As the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam praised the 10 people who were promised paradise. As the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to praise people when they used to come to him, like Thabit ibn Qais and so many of the other companions. So how do we make the tawfiq between the two? We make the tawfiq between the two by first saying, if praising the person is not going to be a fitna upon them, and it's not going to cause them to destroy themselves or you to destroy them, and your praising them is going to be an encouragement for them to continue to do good, then you praise them. Your child, he does good in school. Your wife, she makes you a nice, she makes some effort to beautify herself. She makes an effort to beautify herself. The man should say to his wife, he should praise her, and likewise, vice versa. And we do that for our children, to keep the people to do that which was good. We should praise them in a way that is befitting the deeds that they did, and only as an encouragement to keep them going to do that which is good. And ultimately, Allah knows best about people's situation. The famous hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ spoke to Asma regarding the covering of the female body except the face and the hand. Would this then make the bearing of the face or the niqab sunnah or bid'ah? In the hadith of Asma that's collected by an Imam Abu Dawood, and it has a chain of narration that is hasanun insha'Allah ta'ala. Shukran. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in saying to her, if the woman reaches the age of puberty, she becomes big, nothing should be seen of her except her face and her hands. It doesn't mean that she shouldn't wear the niqab though. Just explaining that's the least amount, or that's the most that can be seen by the woman and other than the mahram. So we have authentic hadith that clearly establish that the wives of the Prophet ﷺ and the other believers, the believing women, they used to wear niqab. As Aisha said, when we were making hajj, anytime the people came by us, we would put the niqab over our faces. There are too many other hadiths like that, so it is from what is from the Sunnah, and it's not a bid'ah, insha'Allah. MashaAllah. Shukran. She looked like my daughter Henny. So when I saw her, I was wondering, how did my wife wind up over here? Wallahi. To use the tasbih, is it haram? And if it is haram, then why do they sell it in Mecca? Brothers and sisters in Islam, first of all, I think really, I look at all of your faces, and I just say, I can't help but to be happy about this beautiful brotherhood and sisterhood of this religion. How the universality of Islam and the truthfulness of this religion has allowed us to come together, cooperating, inshallah, with one another. And here we have all of these faces, and I tell you the truth, all of us can have other places that we can be had we chose to be in those places. So when I get these questions like that, I say to myself, with these types of resources, all of the people who are present here, if you guys were the only ones in all of Ottawa who were trying to practice the Qur'an and Sunnah, if you were the only ones in all of Ottawa, wallahi, you have a lot of resources and you have a lot of potential. The sky is the limit. The only thing that would prevent us from reaching our full potential, insha'Allah ta'ala, is the way that we go about acting, like some of the issues we want to busy ourselves with. When I graduated, and those people who taught me in Medina, they told me, look, we advise you not to stay here in the kingdom over there, in the Khalij. Wallahi, I looked at my boy Usamah, Abdullah, Abdul Rahman, all the ones who were born at that time, some of them were in the Qur'an school. I thought to myself, because I had a visa to stay over there. And those people who taught me said, you should go back to where you came from for the da'wah. Spread the truth. Try to get rid of all of this misinformation that's been spread about Islam for so long. If you don't do it, who's going to do it? We can't continue to allow the responsibility to be, on the doorstep of other people. I said, but Sheikh, if I go over there like that, it's going to be at the expense of my children. I don't care how righteous the mother and father happen to be. Living in these places is a fitna on your child. They say, inshallah, Allah make a way open for you. Allah open a way. So I said, okay, I'm going to go to England. England is less than America. It's a better place. Europe in general is better. So I went to England. When I got to Brixton in London, wallahi, I was so impressed with the scholastic aptitude and the effort of the brothers and sisters in London. I mean, they were really, really busy translating. I mean, even women started translating books. It was just this big academic race to put the knowledge out. And we used to give classes like the book Sahih Bukhari, Kitab Badr al-Wahi, a serious class where we would read the whole chain of narration, give a small biography of the narrators, and then explain the hadith, and then after each chapter was finished, we had a test. All of the brothers used to come. All of the sisters used to come for the test. They weren't afraid. But then the brothers and the sisters started to get busy with issues, politics, and they started hating each other, this group and that group, and they were all on the same thing. And then when I saw them becoming too busy with these frivolous issues, I said, هَذَا فِرَاقٌ بَيْنِي وَبَيْنَكُمْ. I can't waste my time here with you people anymore. We want to be a part of, people want to build a community so that Islam can become an integral part of our lives. Not that philosophical approach to Islam. We're going to sit down and we're going to debate all the time, like the Byzantine argument and debate. You know, the Byzantine argument debate, that's the debate that they used to have in Byzantine, in which they would discuss hours upon hours. What came first, the chicken or the egg? And the enemy would be at their door, about to get them. And they talking about, no, the chicken came first because this and this and this and that. No, the egg came first. We are guilty of the same argumentation. Who's more knowledgeable? Ibn Baz? No, Al-Albani. No, Ibn Baz. No, Al-Albani. That's all we understand? So we have to take into consideration the affairs of the Muslims all over the world. What's happening in Algeria, what's happening in the Khalij, what's happening in Masr and Egypt, what's happening in Somalia, everywhere. But we have to hold on to the siyad, to the thobes of the people of knowledge, the real ulama, the real scholars, and we have to learn about the religion. How can we practice and live Islam in this place right here? So how many times have we heard this issue about the zikr bees and this and that and this and that? It's clear everybody knows that the zikr bees are not from Islam, they are from the Christian religion, Catholicism. They have zikr bees. But I did read a long time ago one of the fatwas of our eminent scholars, the Shaykh Ibn Baz, Hafizahullah Ta'ala, who said that if a person is old and a person doesn't have the ability to make the zikr, 33, 33, 34, he doesn't know where he's at. لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت وعلى كل شيء قدير. 100 times after Fajr, 100 times after Maghrib. How is he going to say all that? The Shaykh said out of necessity, if he can use one of those things, one of those things that you press, the numbers come up, or if you use the zikr bees for that, then inshallah that's okay. That was one of the fatwas of the Shaykh, but he said out of necessity. Other than that, the person should just use his fingers like this, because they'll come for you Yawm al-Qiyamah and they'll witness for you in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that's what you used to do and that's how you use them. Now the person comes and said, okay, Akhi, where do we begin? Do we begin right here? Subhanallah, or do we begin? Subhanallah, or do we this, subhanallah, or do we this, subhanallah? This is Bani Adam. He was created to be argumentative. The way Allah created him is very argumentative. No, take it easy, inshallah ta'ala. Those dhikr not from Islam, it's better to stay away from them, inshallah. Could you be in a relationship with a non-Muslim and hope that you would teach him about Islam? Yes, that relationship is, he's a fellow student in the class, he works across the street in the 5 and 10 store or something like that, but his boyfriend and girlfriend, no. Can't be in those kind of relationships. It never ever works. Never ever works. So we have good relationships with them, calling them to the religion of Islam. If you love somebody before marriage, or you're about to get married, would it be appropriate, and can you say to that person, I love you? The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he told us, if one of us loves a person, then we should inform that person that we love him. And he didn't specify, that's a general statement. If one of you, he was sitting there with his companion, another man walks back, that man said, Ya Rasulullah, inni uhibbu hadha. He said, I love that person. The Prophet ﷺ said to him, have you told him that? He said, no. He said, then if any of you love the person, then let him tell him. Because when you tell the person that you love him, it has caused the present condition, your relationship with that person to be increased in love and to persevere. So that's a general statement. But we have to stay away from the fitna, creating fitnas unnecessarily. So you say, I know hibbuka fillah, I love you for Allah's sake, but we don't want to open the door for all of that other stuff. Like you're going to see now, it's going to come up. Between the two opinions that the woman's aura is one, the whole body except the face and the hands, and number two, the whole body of a woman is aura, where do they get their evidence from? Qur'an and Sunnah. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said in an authentic hadith, al-mar'atu aura, the woman is an aura. إذا خرجت استشرفها الشيطان. If she goes out, shaitan makes her appealing, alluring, beautifies her. So now, Ya Amatullah, listen. Sharifa, Aziza, Khadija, Aisha, Layla, Sauda. Listen. We have our daughters. And our daughters are Muslims, alhamdulillah, we're growing them from day one in the religion of Islam. As they grow up, our daughters will easily and readily accept the nice teachings of the hijab and covering herself up totally and all that stuff. Easily. I don't know why we have so much kalam about this issue about aura, the niqab. Look, if you want to dress and you want your face to be exposed, and you don't have any authority over you, like your husband, like your father, like your brother, who say, no, I want you to cover your face. If you don't have that authority over you, it would be nice, it would be better for the woman to say, okay, I want to be like the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, like my mother. I want to worship Allah with this form of ibadah, by following those women, and this little itty-bitty simple thing that I can do, I'm going to get all this reward from Allah, inshallah. Now, if you don't want to do that, people who do it should make her feel ostracized, out of place, like she's doing something wrong, with the condition that she's covering everything, that she's dressing properly. So until when are we going to be in this issue of niqab? In our community, because the majority of the people wear the niqab, when the girl comes into the community and she accepts Islam, there's some positive pressure that she sees. She doesn't want to be unlike the other people. Positive pressure. But we have prevented those other women from giving her grief if she's dressing properly. And if she's not dressing properly, we say to those women, take it easy with that girl. Bring her to the house and cook for her and take some time with her. Develop her. Try to make her your own personal project. Inshallah, my niyyah is to get close to Allah, to worship Allah by trying to get this sister to understand. Not, I'm holier than thou, something is wrong with you, you're not really committed to Islam. So I think that really the men of our community, inshallah, many of us have the ability, because we have wives who are obedient. Some of us have wives who love, honor, and respect us. All you have to do is say to her, Ya Amatallah, I want you to put the niqab on. She said, Hadir, Ya Habibi, okay, no problem. And she put it on. Those brothers who have that ability, and you are a lot of brothers, if you were to do that, look, now we're going to have the majority of the women dressing like that. Then that small minority of girls who are not doing it for whatever reason, some of them maybe, a half of those who are remaining, they'll see, wow, so many sisters are doing it, I don't want to fill out a place. I want this positive competition, this positive pressure. She'll do it. Then there are only a few people who are doing it, or they're not doing it because they go to school, because they have to work to support their family, for whatever reason. So these are issues we need to approach with broader minds and broader scopes, insha'Allah. Shaykh, we thank you and we thank Allah for you being here. So we told you before about the issue of the Shaykh. The only Shaykh that we have here are those older brothers and Shaykh Amin, who is sitting here, and the Shaykh Ilyas. We thank Allah, we thank you for being here with us, and we make dua that what you have taught us here today, it may be in your good deeds during Qiyamah. I mean, question is, how could we understand the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that believers are gentle to one another and are harsh to the kuffar in terms of giving dawah to the kuffar? That's not a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but that is an ayat of the Qur'an, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in that ayat, Muhammadan Rasulullah والذين معه الشداء على الكفار رحماء بينهم. Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, and those people who are with him, his companions, and those people who believe after him, they are tough against those kuffar, and they are merciful between themselves. So that's the ayat of the Qur'an in Surah Al-Fath. Hey, brothers and sisters, you got to understand this point. This is worth you understanding and memorizing and trying to practice. The standard in Islam, the asl in dealing with people, is that we deal with people with al-layn, wal-rahmah, wal-rifq, wal-shafaqa. We are always soft and easy and kind with people. That's the standard. To deal with people in a respectful way. The way that Allah created Bani Adam is, if you deal with him rough and tough, you got to respond to that behavior. So you have to come to people like you respect them and like you want good for them. And we have to develop this in ourselves. And you go the extra yard to get that person to come to the truth. You don't see that person doing what you think they should be doing or what you know they shouldn't be doing. You expose him to what you think is right. And the nice, beautiful teaching, as Allah Ta'ala said in the Qur'an, "Udu'u ila sabili rabbik bil hikmah wal maw'idati al hasana wa jadilhum billati hiya ahsan." Give dawah to the people, to the way of your law, with wisdom. Know when to be tough, know when to be soft, know what to say, when to say it, who to say it to, how to say it. And give dawah to your law with a good preaching. Take advantage of the minbar. If you're the khatib, make sure that those people who come to hear your khutbah, they don't leave that masjid except that you have given them something about the religion, to ponder, to reflect. Give people a nice talking and argue with them in the way that is best. So that's the faqih in al-Islam. The faqih is the person who has the ability to say this is haram and this is halal, and the proof is this and this and that. But on top of that, the faqih knows how to choose between the two evils. He's faced with two evils. He has to fall in one of the two. The girl is praying Salat al-Fajr or some prayer that is wajibah. Her little baby is standing there. He has a nail in his hand. He's about to stick the nail into the electric socket. What does she say? She says like Jurayj, Rabbi, Salati or Ibni. Should I keep praying or should I stop my baby? Now if she stops praying, she knows all of those ayah, all of those ahadith about the salat, kanat al-mu'minin kitab al-mawquta. She knows all of those hadith and the ayah about the salat is the first right of Allah after Tawheed, all that. So now I'm going to stop praying, giving Allah's right. That's bad, it's evil. But look at the evil of what's going to happen when that baby sticks that thing in the socket. That's it, khalas. So she has the ability to say, the less of the two evils here is to stop. Get my baby, kiss him, take the thing away, put him somewhere, and say astaghfirullah, and then resume my prayer again for Rabbil Alameen. That's the faqih, to have that ability. So he knows how to give dawah to people, who to be rough with, who to be tough with, who to be soft with. There are some people that are just not going to work with them. I have a son, Abdul Rahman, Aboudi. I don't care how many times you sit down and talk to Aboudi to appeal to his heart and his intellect, he's not going to get the message. You have to deal with Aboudi. It's a well-known fact. How are you going to deal with someone? The child gets up, he's 3 years old, he takes the chair and he turns on the stove and he pours grease in the pot and tries to cook bread. He fries bread and we wake up from the alarm. That's his problem. You have to deal with him. But then there's the other child, all you have to do is look at him. And out of shyness and fear of his father, he cries, he leaves the evil one. So the man and the woman, he has to know how to deal with people. Is it from the methodology of Ahl Sunnah to make bay'ah or allegiance to the Islamic group that we have about today? No. To give bay'ah to these people is an innovation that's not from Al-Islam. The bay'ah, brothers and sisters, is designed to bring the Muslims together and is not designed to divide them. So now, I'm the imam of this group, our community of women and sisters. I think, wallah, if this was our masjid, we'll turn the world inside out. Shukran ya Hind. We'll turn the world inside out. With all of these powerful brothers, all of these righteous, obedient women, righteous to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His messenger. So I'm the imam here, or Muhammad Bastawad is the imam. We say, let's give him the bay'ah. Okay, we all give him the bay'ah. After giving him the bay'ah, I get upset with some ruling that he gave, some opinion that he gave. So I say, okay, look, I'm not going to follow you anymore. I want my bay'ah. Then when I walk away, this side of the community, they come with me. And then one of them gets upset with me, they give the bay'ah, and on and on and on, and we fragment the community, the ummah like that. No, the bay'ah is for the khalifa, or the bay'ah is for the imam of the Muslims. And it's not for every little imam or every imam of the masjid or from this jama'ah to that jama'ah. There is no dalil on that bay'ah. Instead, we have people of the past showing us that that type of bay'ah is not from the religion of Islam. If a Muslim falls into one of the major crimes that contradict the methodology of the Sunnah and the Jama'ah, can we consider him or her outside of the people of Jama'ah? And how are we supposed to deal with him? People who fall into crimes and evils, we have to look at what they're doing. As long as they're not falling to that which puts them outside of the fold of Al-Islam, they are a part of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. It's just that how far are they from the actual circle? I mean, the circle of Al-Islam is big, so many Muslims, and then there are circles inside of that circle. The smallest circle are the circle of the people who only take the pure Islam, Qur'an and the Sunnah, according to the understanding of the companions. They have deficiencies within themselves, they make sins, they make mistakes, but they recognize the issue. They recognize that there is no Islam that is the truth other than what Allah and His Messenger, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent from, where Sallallahu Alaihi and His companions are. Now people after that, you have to determine how far they are away from it. So there are certain groups who are closer to that circle than others. And the one who is all the way on the perimeter, he's better than the non-Muslims. So we shouldn't treat them as non-Muslims. Throw them outside of the circle. No, we don't put people outside of the circle who don't belong outside of it, nor do we put people inside of the circle who don't belong inside of the circle. How should we discipline our kids? Concerning those children, I think that people should be very creative in their approach to dealing with their children, especially living here. For the most part, people are not in tune with what's happening with their children. The overwhelming majority of parents, fathers for sure, the overwhelming majority of us never ever take the time out to say to that child, what did you do today in school? We don't introduce our children to the world of literacy or the world of reading prior to them becoming 5 or 6 going to school. The child who has been introduced to books and he's being read to when he's 3 and 4, and you read those little books like Dr. Seuss, those easy little books. You take the Qur'an and you take those stories. You don't have to read to him Surah Yusuf the way it's written in the Qur'an. Just paraphrase it and summarize it. And you teach your child. Before he goes to bed, he's laying there and you tell him the story about Yusuf, and you're adding and you're subtracting. That child's mind and his imagination is running amok all over the place. He sees himself in Egypt. He's picturing Yusuf's brothers. He sees the the wealth, he's all over the place. And then you'll find him at the end of the story responding to you by saying, well, Lord, if I was with Yusuf, I would have did this to his brothers and I would have did that, and it would have been part of the story. But in introducing them to those, introducing them to that literature, we have to be careful about that literature that is non-Islamic, like Jack and the Beanstalk. I don't know if they have that here. They have that here? Jack and the Beanstalk. We don't want to teach our kids about Jack and the... Jack, number one, was a poor man. He sold the family's cow for 7 magic beans. That's irresponsible, Jack. A big cow for 7 magic beans. Magic is haram. When he went to his mother got upset. She took the beans, she threw them out the window, scolded Jack. When they woke up in the morning, Jack looked out the window, and there was the stalk, the beanstalk. Climbed up on it, maybe I'm going to find something. He goes up to wherever that is. Was it Jannah? What are they talking about? He walks up there. When he get up there, he finds who? He finds the wife of the giant. Hey, I'm hungry, Mrs. Giant. Look, I'm hungry. The wife of the giant said, okay, I'm going to give you some food. But don't let my husband see you because he eats little boys like you had some yesterday. She gave him, she hooked him up with some food. She helped him. What did Jack do? Jack went inside the house while the giant was asleep, and he saw the gold on the table while the giant... He stole the giant's gold. That's what Jack did. He's a thief. He's a thief, a sadist. How are we going to read those stories to our children? He came home with the money, and he went back to go get some more. He saw the geese that laid the golden egg. He stole the giant's goose. And he came running down the beanstalk, and the giant came down. When he got down, he chopped down a tree. The giant fell and died. Now Jack is a murderer. Look at all that evil. No, we can't read those kind of stories. Those kind of stories, we can't read them to our children. Unless we identify all along the way, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. But I encourage you brothers, I'm telling you this is an important issue. Expose your child to the world of reading, the newspaper, whatever, and you'll find that those children, they tend to do better academically. As far as disciplining those children, it is a cooperative effort. Some brothers have this understanding that, okay, I'm going to work hard, and I'm going to work all day to provide for my family. And it's your job, woman, to take care of these kids and raise. That's true. That's her job. But she needs the help of the husband. She needs the strength of the husband. It's not natural for a woman to be by herself trying to educate those children. It's not natural for a woman to be by herself in the home all by herself without a woman living with the opinion, I'm never going to get married. I don't want to get married. I can do this by myself. Your children are going to grow up crooked, warped. So Islam has given us, we gave those brothers a tape called The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam with the children. They can make that tape for the people in more detail. Can you recommend some books in English of the Seerah? Al-Rahiq al-Makhtoom is a okay book. It's a good book, inshallah. Sahih Bukhari and Muslim, those books of hadith are good books where you get the history of Al-Islam. Those are two that I know of that are in English. Now we're going to just breeze through this. Do you know any madrasas or circles of knowledge in the world where you not need to go through an application process, just walk in and learn besides Yemen? Yemen is no longer easy, brothers, so you have to reconsider. And I used to, when I first came back from Medina, I used to really tell the people, Hijrah, 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 and I used to beat that into the people's heads. Now I've developed and matured a little bit. Hijrah is not so easy today. Where are we going to go? Who's going to allow us to come there? So those of you who have skills and degrees that can get you into those doors, we say, get out of here and go take this thing, go make the hijrah. For those other people who it's difficult, we don't tell you to go to Sudan, where you have to deal with all kind of diseases. We don't tell you to go to Yemen, where there's no istiqrar, there's no stability. There are arresting brothers who are there right now. And the lifestyle is easy. If you can handle that, then inshallah go. The only place that we know similar to that is in Morocco with Sheikh Muhammad al-Maghrawi. You can go there if you're from America, if you're from England, and I would think if you're from Canada, they'll let you study there. There are some places in Pakistan at Darul Uloom that will let you come in and they will let you study there. But then, trust me, every time it's a give and it's a take. It's not very easy. Even in Egypt, as I understand, if people want to go there, if you can take care of yourself financially, you can study with some of the people there, like our Sheikh Abu Hatim Usamah al-Quti. I understand that you should be obedient to your husband. What if your husband asks you to do something that's between you and Allah, like niqab? Aren't you doing it to please Allah, not your husband? Jazakallahu khairan wa antum kadhalik. If your husband wants you to wear the niqab and you oblige him by wearing it, that's obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. There's no shirk or riyah in that. That's what Allah is ordering you to do, to obey those people who have been put in authority over you. And remember, sister, that the Prophet told you, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, verily your husband, the paradise and the hellfire, through the door of your husband. He's your Jannah, he's your Nar. He's your paradise if you guys can get along together, loving each other, honoring each other, caring about each other, being sensitive to each other's needs, giving and taking, going forward maturely, intelligently. It's not all about what he wants. It's not all about what you want. Just having a strike in the balance. Going out for 40 days or 4 months in the Jama'ah, is that part of Islam? And where did it come from? No, that's not from Islam, the way that those people are doing it. But in saying that, Ikhwan, I really think you have to be careful of those kind of issues, because we don't want to stir up any. I don't have a problem telling you what I think. I don't have a problem, because I'm here and I'm gone. But now when I leave, do we want to create problems? That's why I thank Allah Ta'ala for giving me people who taught me, like the son of our Sheikh, Abdul Razak, Abdul Muhsin Abbas. His father is one of the main scholars of Hadith in Al-Medina. His father was our teacher and he was our teacher. And we used to invite him to England, we used to invite him to America. When he used to come, the people used to always ask him those loaded questions about this Jama'ah, that Jama'ah, what's going on with the people, and they want to get back at their enemies through the Sheikh. And the Sheikh used to always deal with those questions so intelligently, because he didn't want to come, and he's just a visitor. He's here today, gone tomorrow. So he wanted to leave the best example and the most benefit. So he used to just tell the people, I don't want to deal with that issue. So those people want to know the answer to that question. It's well known. Probably the question, he knows the answer to that question. You can go offline and you can stop me and say, I'm the one who asked that question. In the beginning of the lecture, you mentioned that the books available to you were written by Pakistanis, or in Pakistan, correct? The remark you made about these books is not fair. At least you should give them credit for trying to spread the dawah. I appreciate your point of view. Wallahi, I do. But I don't agree with that. First of all, it's very difficult being in the position sometimes when you talk, because people are going to hear what they want to hear. And you can't always take a lot of time to go into detail about every issue. You just assume people got good opinions, husn al-dhann, and that they don't have the su' al-dhann. Your statement can have multiple implications. I can mean this by my statement, or I can mean that by my statement, and I can mean this. When the person whose heart is salim, he says, Abu Usamah meant the best possible implication. The one who has a disease, he said, he meant the worst thing. So he writes me a question. Look, you said this. You said that the woman is a... So now, concerning the issue of the books out of Pakistan, the books that our brothers use, like the book Tabligh al-Nisab, the Qur'an, Yusuf Ali, those books like Riyadh al-Salihin, the old one, the first one, those books that come from Qazi Publications from yesterday, the Tafsir of the Qur'an. It doesn't take a rocket scientist or a genius to take some time out to look at that book, the translations and the commentary, to say, look, those things you have to be careful. Does that reflect negatively on the people of Pakistan? No. We have a sheikh from Pakistan by the name of Sheikh Badir Deen al-Shah, who died a few years ago. May Allah Ta'ala have mercy upon him. Our Sheikh Jamil al-Rahman was from that area. People were from Ahl Sunnah. People were making dawah and jihad for al-Islam. Good people in Pakistan like there are good people everywhere else. Everywhere. So it doesn't reflect negatively on Pakistan at all. But it's a known fact that those books that came from India and Pakistan, when I became a Muslim, I'm telling you, based upon knowledge. So now the person says, can't you give them recognition for the Islam that they were trying to give dawah? Hey, I'm going to ask you guys, by Allah, the one who's given dawah to dalala, opposed to the one who's not given dawah, which one is better? La yastawiyan masala. They're not equal. Then the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, Man kana yu'min billahi wal yawm al-akhir, falyaqul khayran aw liyasmut. Whoever believes in Allah on the last day, let him say that which is good. Let him call to that which is good. Or let him be quiet. You don't have good to say, don't talk to bid'ah, don't call the people to dalala. So don't misunderstand what I'm saying. It doesn't mean Pakistani people are bad. Doesn't mean all of the material out of Pakistan is bad. No, what we had available to us. Now, there are things coming out of England, there are things coming out of America, that the new Muslim, the revert Muslim, the English-speaking Muslim, he doesn't have an argument. He can get well-grounded in other side. Now the question that presents itself is, when are the people from Canada going to get with the program? When are they going to join the race of producing? When should you start wearing the hijab? You should try to develop your daughters to wear hijab when they're young so that it's no problem when they get older. And for sure, when she starts to become the age of puberty, and if she starts to become developed prior to that time, she should put the hijab on. Allah made the shaitan from fire. Why is the shaitan afraid from the hellfire? Because the hellfire is the punishment of Allah Ta'ala. And simply because shaitan is made from fire, that doesn't mean that that fire of the hellfire is not going to hurt him. You, me, we've been created from tin, from dirt. If I took some mud with some water and I hit you upside your head with it, what are you going to say? I was made from mud, it don't hurt? Bust your head with it. The same thing. You were made from that. So it's no problem. There's no contradiction. What are the signs of the day of judgment? There are major signs, minor signs. Some of the minor signs that we are dealing with right now is that Islamic knowledge will be a little bit, most of the people don't know about Islam, and they will know about secular knowledge. Knowledge will be rampant, knowledge of the dunya. Some of the signs that we see right now is the coming of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam. Some of the signs that we have right now is that people will search and try to acquire the knowledge from people who are not qualified, the asagir. From the signs of the knowledge is that the aman, from the sign of the small signs of the day of judgment, the people will lose the amana or the trust. The fact that you have so many women to be married for one man. So many women for one man. 40 women to one man. Those are from the minor signs. From the major signs, the coming of Isa ibn Maryam, alayhi salatu wasalam, the sun coming up in the west and in the east, Ad-Dajjal, Ad-Daba, Ad-Dukhan, all of those are from the major signs. The smoke or the fire that's going to come from Yemen. How do you go about defending the religion when Afghanistan is forcing women to cover their face and denying them the right to be educated? What's Islam's point of view on this issue? Is Afghanistan correct for oppressing women like that? Thank you. All right, now do we take this and we say all Afghanistanis do this, or is just the Taliban? All of the Taliban, this is their position. We're going to take the narration of those kuffar in the news, and we're going to say, yeah, this is what they're saying, that the Taliban are doing it. So no, we have to approach the issue with justice. We say, hypothetically, if this is what's taking place, women are being oppressed. Oppression is haram on women and on men. Even on kuffar, you can't oppress them. Even on animals. The man goes to the hellfire. The man goes to the paradise because he gives a dog some drink. The woman goes to the hellfire because she don't take care of the cat. Held the cat in the house. Let one of you sharpen his knife before he slaughters the animal. Then we're going to be allowed to oppress Bani Adam? No, oppression is haram. Allah Ta'ala in our religion has made it obligatory for every man and every woman to become educated. So it's not permissible for someone to come in the way of that process being fulfilled. So if those people are doing it, I'm clearly saying that they're sinning. It's a major crime. But we just have to be careful. Is all of Afghanistan doing it? No one would say that. All of the Taliban doing it? No one would say that. Is I think this is saying Shola Isra, maybe Isra wal Mi'raj. Is Shola Isra 2 rakats just after, 2 rakats just after the sunrise, the Sunnah? Salatul al-Isra, the prayer of when the sun comes up, is from the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Whoever makes Salatul Fajr and he sits in his place and he remains in that place, remembering Allah Ta'ala, and he doesn't lose wudu, and then he gets up and he makes those 2 rakats, he will get the reward of making the Hajj and the Umrah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There was a big debate in my high school on whether we should stand up for the national anthem. They didn't provide any proof, and many Muslim nations do stand up for the anthem. What is your take on it? If a person has the ability to show his wala and his bara at this particular time, and he's not going to create a bigger problem for himself and the Muslims, then he should not stand up. The Muslim, every opportunity that he gets to show his wala to the Muslims and Islam, he should do it. Whenever he gets an opportunity to show his bara from the kuffar, he should do it. Al-wala is allegiance, love, friendship towards the believers in Islam. And al-bara is hatred, enmity towards the kuffar. That hatred and enmity doesn't mean that we oppress them and we don't treat them in a nice way. So when the Muslim goes to the post office, he has the option of purchasing a few stamps. He can purchase a stamp with khanzir on it, or he can purchase a stamp with the American flag on it, or he can purchase a stamp with George Washington on it, or Martin Luther King, or a stamp with a flower. He says, I'm going to establish my wala, my bara right here. I'm going to buy the stamp with a flower. I'm not down with the khanzir, with George Washington, with this one or that one. So the national anthem is up in that line. But if a person is going to make a bigger fitna for himself, we say don't make a fitna for yourself unnecessarily. About interest and how the Muslims can avoid while we live in the Western world. Everyone is going to be touched by interest in some form or fashion. We have to do our best just to stay away from it. You have to be aggressive and creative in staying away from the interest. And when we say that, we recognize that when we live in these societies, it's difficult. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give everybody the tawfiq. Do other sins such as disrespecting one's parents and practicing or believing in magic, do these things take you out of the fold of Al-Islam? Magic can take you outside of the fold of Al-Islam. Any sin can take